So let's go to the next one. Let's talk about misconceptions then. Tell me about some popular misconceptions you've seen and noticed with your clients, uh, which might help us to really
Yeah.
understand discipline more and also distinguish discipline.
Sure. There are definitely some common misconceptions that I see. One of them is that self-discipline is rigid and it is boring and it limits spontaneity and it's restricting. And I want to say that the opposite is true. To me, self-discipline is freedom, because when you're self-disciplined and you choose intentionally how you want to spend your time, how much money you want to save, what you want to eat, when you want to work out, you create the freedom to live the life you want, instead of always feeling at the effect of what's happening to you, because you're so spontaneous and you're not disciplined around any of the actions you take. So the more you're disciplined with setting boundaries around your time, doing what you say you'll do when you plan to do it, the more time you create for yourself to then be spontaneous and do the other things in your life. The more you have self-discipline around saving money or investing, the more money you have for the other things you want. So I think it is a misconception that's preventing a lot of people from even trying to be disciplined, and it gives them an out.
Mm,
Like, I want to be spontaneous, so I'm not even going to try this whole self-discipline thing. But in
yeah.
fact, it's creating a lot of poverty, in the sense of poverty of time, poverty of relationships, poverty of money, because they're completely not intentional with their life. Self-discipline is freedom, always, 100%.
I love
Um,
it.
I'm
Mm,
trying to think of what else.
yeah.
There is a misconception. One of the things I think I mentioned is that you either have it or you don't. And that's not true. A lot of my clients come to me and they're very self-disciplined in some aspects of their life, and then they're lacking discipline in other aspects. And that's so beautiful. And this is the joy of coaching for me, is to uncover what is it about the areas that you lack self-discipline in? What is the mindset? What is happening
Mm,
there? What is your pattern? And how can we lean on the experience of all the other places where you have self-discipline and find a way to apply that? But not only is it not black or white, you either have it or you don't, but it's also learnable. Like I said, you absolutely can develop that skill if you want to, if your why is strong enough for why you want the thing, the goal. I think those are the two most common ones that come to
mm.
mind.
Yeah, I would just when I was thinking, when I was listening to you, several things come to mind. There's a little bit connected to the second thing you said, but I think a lot of people, especially art-oriented people, consider discipline going against creativity.
Mhm.
And that's been so many people, they say, okay, if I get disciplined, put things in schedule and stuff, I cannot be creative. I cannot put,
Yeah.
my best work in place. And do you have some words to share about that in this direction?
Yeah. I mean, again, listen, if you're an artist or a writer and being completely spontaneous works for you and to create the results you want, love that. Absolutely. You're clearly not going to come to me for help. But there are a lot of people who can use self-discipline and be very creative. And what I'd say there is that if you're just waiting for the motivation, again, you won't be consistent. You may not be able to be in control of the results you create. You can use self-discipline to get yourself to start. And so I have a quote saying, a blank page cannot be edited. You have to produce something to make it better. You have to start to spur that creativity. So sometimes it's overcoming the inertia of inaction. And there's a lot of tactics around how do you get going when you're overwhelmed, when you're not inspired, when you're not motivated. Once you do, often you create momentum and some of the juices start flowing and you're able to get into flow. But it's that resistance to getting started is where the self-discipline comes in.
I remember one teacher which I had in the university. He was a marketing teacher, and he was saying that when you start writing something, just start write. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, you want to write, you have some question, write one page, and you're gonna after this page you start writing actually.
So true.
And and this is the thing which I would say in favor of your point, that actually I've heard a lot of authors who say if they have chunks of time writing every day, but they put it before that, like in morning 2 3, the afternoon
Mhm.
2 3, they're way more productive and effective than if they just go with the flow.
Yes. I have a client who is an author, and we literally are working on, she's like, I have nothing to write. So I told her, just keep writing. I have nothing to say. I have nothing to write. And by the 10th time she's written that down, her brain is like picking up and coming up with ideas. So don't use that as an excuse to stay completely not in control of how you spend your time, unless it's working for you. And then you have a beautiful artistic business and it's amazing.
Yeah, another thing with my client was that, for example, it was not about writing or something. I mean, but he was like, he had to just start an exercise we were just talking about, and he tried it once or twice, and that's not for me. And I remember, we were talking about that. Okay, you need to do that several times,
Yep.
maybe 10, maybe 50, maybe 25 times in order to start feeling it. You cannot start feeling it for the first and the second time. And this actually is discipline, like you say. In order to create a habit, people say 21, 66 days, 100 days, I don't know how many days is, but let's say that you need certain days to do it every single day in order to really. And another example which I'm giving with my clients, I'm sure that you know that normally when you do that, you always one of the fingers stays on. It's just the normal. Everyone has the right or the left. But if you try to do it the other way around, it's very uncomfortable at the beginning. It's very simple thing, right? And it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel natural. But if you start doing that all the time, like for several days, you start to feel comfortability with that. It's all right. Now it feels right. So it's the same thing. And when you show people something very simple, they start understanding the whole concept of discipline, I think, more. Right?
I mean, there's so many things I can say to that, but think about the simplest example of a baby crawling. If they think about it, well, it didn't work for me. I fell the first day and I fell the second day, and they give up. Like, what happens? Like, you just keep showing up and taking consistent action, and those small actions compound and give you the result. You absolutely can learn and get any goal you want if you're willing to stay consistent and take the small action. And self-discipline is a beautiful framework for how to do that.
One thing which definitely I agree with that, and just the last misconception which comes to mind is, and I think that might be a way deeper misconception for people, that they associate discipline with punishment and shaming.
Tell me more.
I mean, because the word discipline is coming very often from a place of, okay, how parents discipline their children or something. So that in itself, the word discipline is very triggering for people sometimes. It triggers people in this direction. And subconsciously, they go against that. Have you noticed that sometimes?
Not as much in my work, but I do think you make a valid point. There is an association with discipline as punishment, I guess, coming from how parents may raise some of their kids. But my approach to self-discipline is about self-love, compassion, and curiosity, because punishment and beating yourself up it just never works. It typically backfires. And I go into a lot more detail to help my clients understand why, especially since a lot of the clients that I work with are type A, super successful and professional. And a lot of them have been successful by beating themselves up over mistakes and failures so they can do better next time. I teach them that they think that works because they've been successful, but I teach them that they've been successful in spite of that approach. And I help them see how a different approach can be a lot better and easier. So self-discipline is a beautiful journey of setting your future self up for success and loving your future self and improving your relationship with self, and having a lot of curiosity along the way of what you're currently doing and why it's not working and how you can do it better.
Yeah, and I think one of the associations with a lot of people could take from today is that instead of discipline equals punishment, discipline equals freedom. It can create a great shift for people subconsciously to start really accepting it and really seeing and understanding discipline from different points. I think that can be a revolutionary for some people. I definitely believe that. So that's amazing. I love that. And people, if you have some questions or some kind of inquiries, just write down in the comment section. Just we're happy with Monica to answer that. And yeah, that will enrich even more this conversation we have.